So hey everybody, I am Titan 9. This weekend I was fortunate enough to win the beta weekend battle for the Gundam card game, as you can see here obviously, in the San Diego area at Onboard Gaming. Very lovely store, a lot of wonderful opponents I had, and just the player base seemed very accepting and kind and excited just to play this game that Bandai's making hard for us to play for whatever reason they want. And a lot of people came up to me after the event was over, or on Discord itself, people who are planning to play in Vegas, and perhaps other upcoming beta event weekends. I know there's still a good chunk of them left to go, asking me about sort of the thoughts and choices behind it, because it's not what a lot of green-blue people were doing. A lot of people didn't even think some of these cards were super playable, and they just thought that blue-white was this unbeatable machine. But I knew that going into this event, and that's why I did a lot of testing about how to get under them and what the best way to do that consistently was. Ultimately, what I decided was it was redundancy, because we do not have the same card draw that they have with their show of resolves and occasionally the overflowing affections, things like that. So I want to show you where I started from, because there was a lot of tinkering involved. This didn't just like magically happen overnight. Deck building rarely does. I started here. This was based off of a list that won one of the earliest constructed beta tournaments. It was an online one by, I think, Eggman, that website, and it was run by a person named Levi, and they seem to be a very talented deck builder. They're always tweaking with every new card release. They win a lot of the time, or just do well in general. Very strong player. They happen to be number one over other blue-white decks, so I thought clearly this must have a shot. And they opted for this breach package, and it's what a lot of players I'm noticing are doing, particularly my opponents yesterday. Yesterday I played against blue-white and green-blue and a green-white deck as well. So the green-white I was less prepared for because nobody was really talking about it, but it seemed, in my experience and looking around at the tables, it seemed to be that they were doing some white blocking or Haka Vendemmying or getting, or stuff along those lines to buy time until they could do their breach stuff. I'm going to do a series of videos for people and get them out quickly this week for all you Vegas crowds, but hopefully for the rest of the beta weekends, they'll be helpful for you too if you're thinking about going blue-green. If you don't have the full card availability to do blue-white, which is why ultimately I chose not to go with that deck. I just didn't want to make an inferior version of an already powerful deck, and I just thought other players would probably have the full playset of all the fancy cards they need. So this is why I went with this deck. I'll talk about what card availability forced my decisions to make at the end of it, and then I'll also do future videos about what hands to keep. We'll look through a bunch of hands and see which would be good and which matchups and which we should mulligan. We will also have a video about gameplay as well, mostly against the blue-white and the blue-green breach style of the deck. That's what you're probably going to see the most of. And that was kind of where I did all my testing. I'm still not super familiar with the green-white deck, so I don't want to kind of give false information about that. But we're starting. This is where I began. And I think they only had one of Chang and one of Yui. I don't fully remember at this point, but I tried sort of going up, so I didn't just hope to luck in to getting to rush these things. I think being able to attack the turn you play was super important to get under blue-white. They also have intercept orders to turn things sideways so you can breach them, show a resolve to when you run out of cards, you can kind of pull ahead a bit. And these give all of your little early dudes a little staying power in the middle to game, not so much the late game. There's not too many, there's only 6 of Charlink units, so they only opted for 3 of them. And ultimately, what I was finding is my big plays, namely this and this, to be super impactful on turn 4, I also needed Chang Wufei. And this just comes down way too late, even if I have Yui. I can't play it till turn 6, 5 I guess if I go second, but I couldn't always guarantee that. Oftentimes it wouldn't attack till turn 7, and by that point, blue-white's done everything it needs to do to stabilize, and I'm probably not getting past them. So I didn't want, and I especially didn't want to open with these cards in my hand. I wanted to be able to play as many units on those first 3 turns as possible, so I could have 4 to 5 units at that time. That was usually enough to run people over. Then I was like, all right, well, breach is there to kind of give you some reach for when they finally do stall the ground out. and keep all your 1-1s and 1-2s and 2-2s back. So what is another way to do it? And that took me to noticing this card G Fighter that gives high mobility to all white base units. And it itself is a white base, and it can target itself. So that was pretty cool, especially if I had an armor array to pair with it. And that gives it 5, can take out a base in one hit. Pretty sweet. I was also, since I wanted a little more top end to replace the Shenlongs and the Wing Gundams, I looked at Gundam. I had access to 3 of them, and then I looked at the other Gundam as well. But then I was worried, like, this isn't really that much, and if I add more of these Gundams, I'm sort of raising my level curve a lot higher. I didn't really want to do that. But then I happened to notice Gun Tank, that I already wanted to play 4 of anyway. It also was a white base unit, so I could sneak one of these by to get it, take out a shield, or get that crucial last point of damage in. I had actually started not with this vanilla Gundam, but with the one that lets you draw a card when you pair it. The problem was that's a 5 level card, and by turn 5, I want my opponent dead or effectively dead. And so that extra card didn't matter too much. If the game went much longer against either the Breach opponent or the blue-white opponent, I probably was going to have a really hard time clawing back anyway. And I definitely didn't want to see that in my opening hand. So that was what I did. I started off with only 2 Char, because I only had access to 2 of the Zakus. I think I started with 2 Gelgoogs and went up to 3. Ultimately, I decided to go up to 4 and 4 because I was finding in the blue-white matchup, being able to sneak an attack in, an unexpected attack with these Rush Link units was super important. And I wanted to maximize that, so I wanted to play 4 Chars, which means I needed to play more units for him. I didn't have these, so I went all the way up to 4 of these. I actually took down one of these to put it over here, because Amuro already has these 4, plus so he has 8. That's pretty good, and then Char will have 6 as well. And he's not so bad to put on other things as well, because he can kind of clear out some dangerous threats, or if you put him on a Razel, you can clear out a base that way as well, which is pretty nice. I started off with 4 Felmel, because I was worried about the Breach deck in the mirror match, but ultimately I just kind of kept finding it in my opening hand, and the 3/1 token, while nice, and sometimes I definitely did play this aggressively to get board presence and to draw a card. The fact that it comes unrested is a big drawback. Opposing gun tanks can take it back. Both of the decks I was testing against could play gun tanks and often would. The other issue was the Darabald can just bounce that token, and I get nothing out of it. It wasn't as good at paper as it seemed, and against both my matchups, I sort of wanted to kill them or effectively have them dead on board before they were able to take out most of my shields anyway, so I didn't really need to stall them. It was more effective to have the 40 units here. And I did notice my opponent, one of my toughest matchups that day was against one of my blue-green opponents, and they got their Shenlong Gundams online pretty quickly. They didn't have the pilots, fortunately, but they got them online. That was the worst hand I had all day. My first hand had a Felmel and a bunch of high-cost units, so that wasn't too good. And the Mulligan wasn't much better. I still had a Felmel. I had the other one. That was quite annoying. I had one of each pilots. I think a Zaku 2, which wasn't so bad because I could take out the base on turn 2, and then another 4-cost thing, one of these 4-cost things. So I was a lot slower than I would have liked to be, and that gave them an opening, but I was able to draw out of it because I had way more units I could draw to keep the board flooded, and they were just drawing pilots or show of resolves that they had to cast on turn 4 and then couldn't cast anything that they drew, and it just really gummed up the works there. So I was really happy to go with the 4. It was a game day decision to add a third one of these GMs to bring this down to 2. And I'm glad that I did that, because every time I saw this in an opening hand, which was a surprising amount, or I drew it on the first 2 turns, I was much happy that it wasn't the potential Felmel that it had been earlier that morning. The G-Fighter can do the high maneuver it does it for itself, as I mentioned. So 4, 8, 9, 12 units, and then it also taps something down. So even if they have 2 blockers, you can sneak in a thing pretty easily. And then Char obviously has high mobility for his link units, and even if they do manage to kill this unit, you get another one too. So the best thing they can do is 2 for 2 you in that exchange, and that's pretty good. But ultimately, the types of things you're looking for is you want to have, ideally you have a turn 1 play. That's why I have 7 of these, 4 and 3. A lot of people didn't think playing these cards was any good. They thought I was kind of crazy for doing it, but it just mattered to be able to double spell. So on turn 2, I had plenty of opportunities to play 2 units. On turn 1, I had the opportunity to already have a piece down. On turn 3, I don't really have any 3 costs, as you can see, besides this, but I can't play it on turn 3 anyway. So it's just like playing one of these and a 1 cost, playing one of these and a 1 cost, one of these and a 1 cost. And then I don't have to play Magwanac on turn 2. I can play 2 1-drops, and now I have 3 units. They usually don't even have 1. So that is all the philosophy behind putting these down. Shields, I think people forget, only have 1 HP. And sometimes do they get a base out? Sure, but you have these pilots to buff them up. You have so many on board that you don't mind having a couple of attacks. When they play a base, it does eat up one of their shields. You are slowly triggering down their life. And then a ball can end the game, and it did in one of mine. Like, it can do the job. So don't overlook these. Obviously, when the card pool widens and a lot more strategies open up, you probably won't be playing ball in this deck. You probably won't be playing Zaku 1. That DOP card looks a lot good. But with the card pool I had, no demo decks were allowed. This was the way I opted to go, and it worked out very well. Apologies if this one ran a little long. I just kind of wanted to go over all of the deck card decisions and why they all work together for our game plan package of just like going down their throats super quickly and getting that game over as quickly as possible. That tough blue-green matchup, I told you that went to turn 6 or 7, but everything else was turn 5 or earlier. So you can win this game well if you know how to sequence your turns and if you know how to find the right opening hand. And that is the subject of the next 2 videos. I'm going to try to put them out very quickly this week so you guys can make decisions on your own if you're going to the Vegas event. And then you can kind of get ahead of what you want to decide, what you do want to include. Some people still don't want to give up the Shenlongs. I can respect that, but at least I'm giving you an idea behind the thought process and what worked and what didn't work for me. After the event, what would I change? Not really much. Like I said, I would love to have this be a 3rd Charzaku and this be 1 less Gelgoog. I don't know if I would run a 4th because I don't know what I would take out for it. I don't want to kind of mess with the white base package. And even though I would love to lower the curve, and I don't know, this 4 toughness, this 4 AP does matter a lot. 4 is a magic number in the beta format. So I don't know if I want to just automatically go down with 3, just for the sake of having a cheaper and a quicker body. There are enough plays that you can do on those early turns where you don't mind having some 4 cost things, and that 4 toughness will matter. You don't have a lot. If we did my dream scenario, you'd have 3 here, and you'd have 4 here, and that's it without any pilots. So you can play a 4th one if you have access to a 4th one. I don't know what I would take out for it, and I haven't really thought about it. That's what I have for you on that advice. You don't need to have 3 of this. I like this for the AP boost that it had. The repair was kind of nice a couple times, but that ultimately didn't matter because by the time I played it, my opponent was pretty close to dead anyway. So even if they took it out, there would have been 4 or 5 other things on the board they'd have to deal with. So you could sort of switch between these. I try to have 4 of some grouping of these. This is better in a lot of ways. Like maybe I would go 2 and 2 just to have this cost 2. They do have the same stat line here. That's a dealer's choice there. If you only had 1 of these, obviously you probably do since you played at least 1 beta event, 3 of these is totally fine and may even be better than what I did. So it has a track record. Don't let people tell you blue-green is bad. Don't let people tell you need to breach. Though if you want to breach, feel free. And stay tuned for my future videos on the other aspects of the deck, and hopefully you'll have all the information you need to have a successful weekend beta battle. Thank you very much.